How to survive a recession within your retirement investing accounts. That's what we're going to talk about today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. We're looking at recession proofing our retirement investing accounts. What does that mean? What is that? How do you recession proof your investments, or how do you set up your financial plan to withstand a recession? And let me give you a little secret right here up front. Recessions over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of your retirement life or your retirement investing life are going to come. They're going to come and they're going to go. And you need to be prepared, especially depending on what area of life you're in when the recession comes. So let's talk about that today. Let's talk about recession proofing our retirement investing accounts. First of all, what is a recession? I know there's a lot of commentary out there. People say recession, people say slowdown. If you watch the news, everywhere you go, it's recession, recession, recession. So let's examine what exactly is a recession. Well, first of all, a recession is when the economy slows down. Keep in mind that the stock market is built mainly on goods, meaning products sold. But the economy is built on labor, right? It's built on the workforce. It's built on service sectors. So a recession is simply the economy slowing, meaning business employment slowing, layoffs. So a recession can be economically defined by two negative GDP quarters. So we just had in 2022, the first quarter, we had a negative GDP number. The Fed is forecasting that the second quarter for 2022 will be a negative GDP number as well, a -2, which means essentially we're already in a recession. So if you're saying what is a recession, it's essentially what we're going through right now. It's a slowdown in the economy. Now, we're in a unique place currently because in a normal recession, employment would go up and consumer spending would come down. What we're seeing because of the demand from COVID over the last couple years is we're still seeing employment at a fairly low number, and we're seeing unemployment at a very low number, and we're seeing consumer spending still at a high level. Now, how they're spending is one of the things that economists look at. Credits, buy now, pay later. Credit cards and buy now, pay later are both up. So when we're thinking about a recession, we're in this unique situation where it doesn't look like many recessions in the past, which is why we're talking about that today, protecting your retirement investing accounts during a recession. What are causes of recessions? And I get these questions all the time, and this is really what I want to start with before we get into how to protect your retirement investing account. So what is a recession? We talked about that. That's two negative GDP quarters. What's a cause of a recession? Well, a decrease in consumer spending is one of the causes of a recession. If you have oil prices as high as they are today, think 1970s, high oil prices, people are going to spend less on gas. So a decrease in spending is a reason for a cause of a recession. An increase in interest rates is another cause of a recession. We've seen that. The Federal Reserve raised rates by 75 basis points last quarter. Looks like they're going to raise 75 basis points here in the next couple weeks at the next Fed meeting. Canada just raised interest rates by 100 basis points. That's 1% to fight inflation. The ECB is raising interest rates. So a cause of a recession is an increase in interest rates. And lastly, a decrease in business investments. So a decrease in business investments is something that can cause a recession. And lastly, I just said lastly, but really actually lastly, what can cause a recession is a stock market crash. Now, I'm not on here talking about stock market crashes. There's other channels that are going to predict stock market crashes, that are going to talk to you about stock market crashes. I don't want to get into that. That's not my job. But a stock market downturn, which we've seen, obviously you can't see what I'm looking at, which is a CNBC TV or TV watching CNBC, but the market is down about 22%. Retired 2019. Hey, thank you for the I don't even know what they call that, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching the channel. And Kevin, always happy to have you on here as well. So What is a recession? Causes of a recession. And let's talk about the effects. What are the effects of a recession? Well, increased unemployment. As unemployment goes up, that is a recessionary kind of byproduct, right? As interest rates go up, the Fed raises interest rates. You have a decrease in business spending. Google just said that they're going to slow hiring. Coinbase is laying off employees. Tesla is laying off employees. We're seeing companies slowing hiring, looking for layoffs. So you have an increase in unemployment. We're going to talk about what that does to your 401ks. Super chat. Thank you so much, Retired 2019. Again, new to the live stream thing. So increased unemployment, we have a decrease in spending. Those are causes of a recession. So what are some of the things that you can do to survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts? That's what we're really going to focus on today. And anytime I run a financial EKG for someone, when I'm running through a financial plan, I always like to talk about sequence of return risk. And what a sequence of return risk is that in the first few years of your retirement, that the market has multiple down years. Because the thought process is when you retire, you're going to have to use your retirement investing accounts for retirement income. And so if the market is steadily going down during the first few years of your retirement life, then the percentage that you have to take out of your retirement investments for income goes up. So let's use an easy example. If you've got $1 million and you need $50,000 a year to live off of that $1 million, not considering Social Security or pensions, that's a simple 5%. Okay. Well, if the market's going down and your $1 million goes to 900,000, now the percentage that you have to take out has gone up. Your investments have gone down 10%, and the percentage that you take out has gone up. And that's called sequence of return risk. We saw this in 2000. So in the year 2000, the market was down for 3 consecutive years, 00 to 01, 01 to 02, and 02 to 03. And so you had individuals go into retirement in the booming 98, 99 years, and you had three really tough years in the market that wiped out a lot of the gains from those 97, 98, 99 years. And that caused individuals to go back to work. And really, if you look at the crash of 2000, it took all the way to 2008 for the market to recover. And then what happened again? We had the housing bubble. Now, obviously, that doesn't normally happen. That was what they call the lost decade when it comes to retirement investing. But sequence of return risk is very, very important to think about, especially when you're trying to protect your money in a recession. I like to look back at history. I'm a big history buff. Right now, I'm actually reading a book about the battles in the Pacific during World War II. Just finished Ronald Reagan's diary and Thomas Jefferson's biography. Love reading about history. So if you look back on the market history from the year 1966 to 1982, that's kind of the best decade or so, 15 years that I can see where it kind of mirrors where we're at today with the high inflation, with where we're at with oil prices. And if you look at the Dow Jones, because the S&P wasn't around until the 1950s, but if you look at the Dow Jones from 1966 to 1982, it could not get over 1,000. Now, today, the Dow Jones is at 30,841. But back then, it was still below 1,000. And you saw the Dow keep hitting that 1,000 on the mark and coming back down. That's sequence of return risk. For 15 years, if you were retired during that 15 years, the Dow Jones basically moved sideways. So money that you were pulling off of your investments were basically just draining your accounts. I mean, X dividends and X some interest that you could get off of that. So sequence of return risk is really, really important. And that's why you really need to factor that into your financial planning. You've really got to think about, what if the market does go down? And we're seeing that. The market's down about 22% from its high. Many of you who are in your 50s, who are in your 60s, understand what I'm talking about. If you're in your 30s and 40s, it's a little tougher for you to kind of understand. See, I'm 36. So I started working in 2008. So I haven't seen any kind of market crashes per se until 2020. And then obviously 2022, which we're seeing right now. So you have to think about it. Sequence of return risk is very, very important. And we're actually starting to get a little bit of a gut check. So let's talk about 3 things that you need to be thinking about how you can survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts. And I'm gonna give you some tips along the way as we do this. But the first thing that I talk about all the time, especially when I'm doing videos about retirement planning, is to build a cash hedge. Build a hedge for your retirement income. And what does a cash hedge look like? Well, a cash hedge might be the bank account. It might be your bank account. A cash hedge might be a liquid money market account. It might be some short-term bonds, maybe something very, 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 very short-term, anything that's really, really liquid that you can pull from if you need to. Think about it this way. You've got two separate buckets working when you're taking out retirement income. Now, we talked about retirement income in another live stream, but let's just assume in a simple fact, you get two buckets. You've got your 401ks and your IRAs. Let me get over here in the camera. 401ks and IRAs and all that you're using for your retirement income. And then you have this cash bucket. And the cash bucket is used when this one's really volatile. So as this one comes up, right, as the market returns and your 401ks and your IRAs go up, you're able to use this bucket for your retirement income. But when the market comes down and your 401ks and your IRAs and your Roth IRAs come down, you have this cash hedge that you can use to help protect your retirement income. You can take from it. Now, right now, it's not earning a whole lot of interest. Over the last, since 2008, there's not been any kind of interest in your short-term liquid investments. But going forward, we're probably going to see higher interest. So this is one of the good things going on right now, is that interest rates are rising. So if you're at what they call a senior or a saver, if you're someone who saves money, we like to save money, and I'm a big believer in saving money. And so if you've got money in the bank, or you are a senior, which is typically somebody who saves a lot of money in interest-bearing accounts, we should start to see interest rates go up. So if you've got these two buckets working together, when the market comes down, you're able to use your cash hedge as needed. And I always recommend 12 months to 3 years of your retirement income in cash. Now, again, everybody's situation is different. I'm your virtual financial advisor, but if you want direct advice, either call me or talk to your financial advisor, CPA, or tax accountant. So it's always going to be based on your needs. Retired 2019, I'm thinking about working a part-time job in 2023. That's something we're going to get to. One of the pro tips that I have for surviving a recession in your retirement investing accounts, one of the pro tips when I was doing research for this live stream was a part-time job, was working a part-time job. Now, again, when you're retired, going back to work does not sound fun. But you need to think about it in the sense of, what can I do that is fun, right? What can I go do? So my uncle is a contractor by nature. And he's been a contractor for, he was 19 years in the Marines, and then he became a contractor. And now he's like, Drew, I'm tired of dealing with shortages. I'm tired of dealing with high prices. I'm tired of dealing with people. And so he basically just stopped. I mean, he has some personal real estate that he still works on, but he stopped working. And now he actually has a friend who owns a camping world or something, and he's actually going to drive campers to people who bought them. Well, that's just some extra change for him. And it's something that he can do to help replace the income that he was getting. Now, he's military, so he's got his pension. He's not old enough for Social Security yet, but that's coming very soon if he wants it. And so this is just something he can do to enjoy during retirement. So yes, pro tip, if you're wanting to survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts, working a part-time job or a side hustle is a great way to do that. Another reason why you want to have a cash hedge is it allows your investments to recover. We talked about this. When the market's going down, having investments or having cash or having interest-bearing accounts somewhere else allows us to pull money off of those investments or off of that in interest-bearing accounts to let our other investments come back. Keep in mind, and I don't want to get into math because on a live stream, I will definitely not look like a good math person. But when it comes to math, when the market goes down 10%, so let's use that $1 million example again. When your $1 million goes down to 900,000, that's a 10% loss. That's 100,000. Take 900,000 now, okay? Because most people think if I lose 10%, if I make 10%, I'll be back to even. Well, so we've got $900,000. Let's add 10% into that. Now we're at 990,000. So when you lose 10%, it takes more than 10% to get back to even. So if we have this cash hedge, it allows us to pull that income off of that and to let our investments recover. Okay. So how to survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts. Number one, build a cash hedge. Number two, look for guaranteed and semi-guaranteed income. And this is what I preach on this channel. Not only do you need a financial EKG, you need a financial plan that looks at all parts of your investing. Drew, why do you call it a financial EKG? Well, real simple. I don't know if anybody's ever had an EKG. My wife has had an EKG. And when you go into the cardiologist and they do the EKG, like my wife's this little bitty skinny petite girl. I don't know if you can see her right here. But there were some issues when we first got married. But when you go into a cardiologist, they put that machine on, you can see everything that's going on inside. And that's a lot like our retirement. On the outside, we've saved $1 million and we're 55 and we're asking the question, can I retire at 55? Can I retire at 60 with $1 million? Whatever. But on the inside, we're getting taxed. The tax qualifications on our investments are set up wrong. How we're invested is not transitioned from our 30s to our 50s. And so you need a financial plan. So if we're so step number two into surviving a recession in your retirement investing account is look for guaranteed or semi-guaranteed income. The first guaranteed income source you're going to have in retirement is Social Security. You want to have a Social Security plan. And there's a lot of great websites out there. If you don't want to call me, there's a lot of great websites out there that will show you how to get the most out of your Social Security. But one of the things that I like to do with clients is we run what we call a Social Security maximization schedule. And we want to see, when does it make sense for you to claim Social Security? I'm working on a video right now. Should I claim or what age should I claim Social Security at? It's built for you. You claiming Social Security is based on where you're at. Are you married? What's your spouse's age? But you really want to think about how much can I maximize my Social Security? Because if you're 55 and retiring and the market's going down, you've got 7 years to get to 62 when you first become eligible for Social Security. You have 12 years to get to 67, and you've got 15 years to get to 70. So you've got a 15, a 12, and a 7-year landing strip from which you have to take out retirement income. And so you want to make sure that you have a plan for taking out that retirement income, and when are you going to take Social Security and how's that going to affect you? So look for guaranteed and semi-guaranteed sources of income to help let your retirement investments breathe a little bit in the markets. Look at your investments, look at dividends. I wrote on here bond payments. We've got interest rates going up. You know, the 10-year treasury today is at 3.05. We haven't seen we saw 3.5 just a few weeks ago, but 3% on a 10-year treasury, that's been forever. Again, I've been doing this since 2008. It's been a long time since we saw 3% on the 10-year treasury. So we want to look at ways that we can get some semi-guaranteed income that's going to give some relief, some of that pressure from our investments. So dividends, bond payments, annuities, things like that would help with that. Go back to my last live stream. I talked about the total return approach when taking out retirement income. That's another great way to help get some semi-guaranteed income and to make your retirement investments last forever. So the first way to survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts, build a cash hedge. The second way to survive a recession within your retirement investing accounts is look for guaranteed or semi-guaranteed income. And the third thing, or the third way, and I believe this is the way that most people are going to think about this when you think about surviving a recession in your retirement investing accounts, is your allocation mix. How are you investing? Because that's the big thing, right? You know, I was talking to a client yesterday and he said, Drew, I was talking to some of my friends and they're down 23, 24% in their investments. Now, this guy who I was talking to, he's 84 years old. He lives in a independent living facility up in Pennsylvania. And so he was saying, hey, Drew, my friends are down 24, 25%. Man, they're really hurting. It does hurt to lose 24, 25%, especially you think about his friends are in that independent living facility. He's 80 and they're probably close to that or maybe late 70s, and they're losing money based on this recession. So what you need to look at is how am I invested? How am I invested? And I talk about this a lot on live streams and on videos, but when you're 36, I'm 36, I think about investing like playing baseball right here, baseball. So I don't know if anybody's a baseball fan, but when you build a lineup for baseball, you have 9 players and you have your baseball lineups, your first hitter through your ninth hitter. And normally your best hitter, like your most consistent hitter, is number 1, and your worst hitter, the one with the worst batting average, is number 9. Okay. So when I played college baseball, I was probably like 7 or 8. And so when you think about investing in your early 20s, your 30s and 40s, you're wanting to hit a lot of home runs. You're like Aaron Judge, right? For the Yankees, or Stanton, pretty much the entire Yankee lineup. All they're trying to do is hit home runs. And so that's really what you're trying to do in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. You want to hit as many home runs as you possibly can. My dad's 67. My uncle, who I just talked about, he is 60. I don't know how old he is. He's pushing 60. But anyway, they don't need to invest for hitting home runs. Their allocation for their investments need to change. So a lot of times what financial professionals say is you want kind of a 45 to 55 allocation mix when you're heading into retirement. I prefer a little heavier equity, so 55 equity, 45% fixed income. Now, obviously, it's a tough environment right now for fixed income, so you've really got to be nimble if you're thinking about putting money in fixed income. It needs to be short-term, short-term muni, short-term treasury, short-term corporates, things that you can let sit. Maybe even if you can buy the actual bond, that's going to be better than owning an ETF or a mutual fund. But you really want to think about how you're transitioning your investments. Now, here's my one caveat right now. Don't make allocation changes when the market's going down. So when you're losing 10, 15, 20% because you're invested maybe for growth, maybe you were thinking the market was going to continue to do what it had done the last 10 years, buy on the dip, it's going to come back. We're not going to see this, we're not going to stay down very long. And you stayed invested and you've lost 20, 25%, and you're going to step into retirement a year, 2 years from now. Don't make these changes right now. Don't make any rash decisions. One of the pro tips I have on here is avoid a rash decision. Think about it in the sense of, okay, as the market recovers, then I can gradually make adjustments. I'm a kind of guy that when I know something needs to change, like I do it like all or none. A couple of years ago, maybe not even a couple of years ago now, like 5 years ago, I was told that my doctor said, "Hey, Drew, you got some high cholesterol." And I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm young. I have high cholesterol, but it runs in my family and I've got a genetic disposition to it." So anyway, I like that day was like, okay, well, I'm going to eat, I'm going to drink, and I'm going to exercise the way I need to eat, drink, and exercise. And I stopped eating meat. Now I'm not a health expert, so don't email me anything about that. But, I stopped doing things that would essentially push my cholesterol up. You can't always do that with investing. You might look at your 401k statement, especially when you're opening it now, your IRA or 401k, you might be down 25%. Well, it's not the time to make adjustments. Let it sit. And as the market recovers, then start to make those allocation changes as needed. If you need help with that, reach out to me. We can certainly help you with that. You want to make sure that you continue to invest as well. A lot of times I met with a client yesterday, and they're from, can't remember what state they're from. But anyway, I met with them yesterday and they said, "Hey, we're not putting anything into our 401ks anymore because we're nervous with the market." And I said, "Hey, that's one of the worst things you can do. You want to continue to invest in the market, especially when it's lower, because you're getting it on sale." So really think about, how am I investing based on my time horizon? If you've got 10 years or more before you get to retirement, you probably don't need to make any changes to your allocations. But if you are stepping into retirement, and I would say within like 5 years, it's a really, really important time for you to start addressing how am I invested? Because the worst thing to happen is to stay invested like you are. The market comes back, you come back, and then you get ready to go into retirement and the market falls again because you never made the changes when you needed to make the changes. So adjust your allocations over time, allow your investments time to come back, but as they come back, begin to adjust as needed. One of the things I always talk to people about when I ask them, anytime, if you ever visit with me on a Zoom or on a phone call and we're going through kind of what I call like an informational call, I always ask, what is a rate of return that you would love to have throughout retirement in real terms? Because I ask that question, I say, "Hey, what kind of rate of return do you want the rest of your retirement?" People would say, "Well, I want 12%. And I go, "Well, This ain't Dave Ramsey. You're not going to get 12% a year. The market hadn't even averaged 12%, a year. It's averaged 8% with inflation since 1950. But what's a rate of return? So when you go into retirement, you have to ask yourself, what rate of return do I want throughout my retirement? And then you adjust your investments accordingly, understanding if 8% is our benchmark, right? So 8% is the benchmark, which is the market. So if you're saying, hey, Drew, I want to make 8% throughout my retirement, well, you're going to be pretty aggressive. You're going to be as aggressive as the market. Now, I run all of our EKGs, all our financial plans at 6 and 4%, because I want to stay behind the market, because I believe that, especially when you step into retirement, you don't need to be as risky as the market. Think about it like Disney World. If you go to Disney, one of my favorite roller coasters is Disney Space Mountain. You don't want to be on a roller coaster in retirement. You want to be on more of a consistent ride, like Dumbo or the Walt Disney World Railroad, like where you know where you're getting off at. And so that's when you think about allocation mixes, that's really what I try to preach to you guys and to other people watching the channel. So retired 2019, I'm 70-30 stocks to bonds, 59 years old. That's great. If you understand what you're doing, you know where you're going with it, that's perfect. And as you get older, you continue to adjust those. So think about rates of return. How much rate of return do I want in retirement? And listen, if you don't know that, that's something we can help you with. One of the things that when we run an EKG for clients, I'm able to show them like, hey, you're going to run out of money if you don't earn this rate of return. And it gives clients a really good idea of, okay, I need to save this amount of money so that I can earn either a lower rate of return and be okay, or understand going into retirement, if I retire at this age, I'm going to have to earn a higher rate of return, which means I'm going to have more volatility on my investment. So questions, concerns, put those in the chat. Smash the like button if you like this video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. We're going to wrap up here. I got 27 minutes on the board. I usually like to go about 30, which means I end up going 45 minutes. So how to survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts. Number one, build a cash hedge. Very, very important. Number two, look for guaranteed, semi-guaranteed income. And number three, allocation mix. How are you investing now in your 40s, 50s, 60s going into retirement versus 20s, 30s, 40s? And when you think about investing, and I just thought of this because I was working on it. Actually, these are my note sheets you can see for my upcoming videos. This is how to invest for retirement in your 50s and 60s. If you have a title or a topic you want me to talk about, leave those in the comments as well. But when you're talking investing, especially going into retirement, you have like the first phase is retirement to 75. So that's kind of retire. Like if you retire at 60, you retire at 55, you got about 20 years of good health. You've got about 20 years of time to let the market kind of do its thing. You're growing, you're pulling your retirement income off of that. From 75 to 85, you have this transition, because normally, just historically, or just looking at data, 75 to 85 is when we start to have our healthcare concerns, when our mind changes from growth to more preservation. So you've got this transition from retirement to 75, which is kind of staying on track to what you were doing, to 75 to 85. I don't have a lot of 85-year-old clients who are saying, hey, Drew, I'm trying to make this money go to the moon. The guy in Pennsylvania is 83 years old. Tom's calling me saying, hey, Drew, I want to protect this money. Drew, I want to make sure that my wife's protected if something happens to me. So 75 to 85 is really that protection stage. And then 85 to, kingdom come is really making sure that our retirement investments, our retirement income is going to last. So you've got these three phases in retirement that help you kind of benchmark what you're doing with your retirement investments. Okay. So other questions, concerns, comments, sarcastic. Listen, thank you so much. I love doing the live streams now. I'm going to try to start doing this about every Wednesday at 11 Eastern time. I know that's early on the West Coast, but I really have had a lot of great feedback and enjoy doing this. Retired 2019. Drew, my pension covers my living expenses. However, I enjoy traveling. Should I work part-time and stop making withdrawals in a down market? A great question. So let me caveat retire 2019. I got to know your name too. Put your name in the chat. So when you think about, you got to make a personal decision. This is a question where you need to make a personal decision whether you want to continue to work. Listen, one of the things that I try to do is I want to help give clients confidence going into retirement. And so you want to have a black and white financial plan. You want to have a financial, what I call it a financial EKG, financial plan. You need something that shows you like, okay, I'm here. How long is my money going to last if we just have geometric returns of, let's say, 5 and 6%? A lot of what I show you on the channel, like how long is my money going to last? And then based on those assumptions, then you can make adjustments as needed. Because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't want you to go to work part-time just because you're concerned or just be, okay, Herb, perfect. Thank you, Herb. I don't want you to go to work, Herb, just because you're concerned about your investment returns in the sense of like, it's like you got to have a plan. Like I just want to say, so when I do plans for clients, it's hard to explain this on a live stream. We look at the worst case scenario. So I'm looking at saying, okay, if we have a decade like 2000 to 2010, this is what your retirement investing portfolio is going to look like. And I'm working on right now for a couple. And if we use a geometric return of just 5% a year, they average 5% for the rest of their life. They never run out of money. Like 100, they've got like $1 million left. But if we have a decade like 2000 to 2010, they're out of money at 83. And so there's like this 17-year gap between 83 and 100. So when you think about your retirement income plan, going back to work, Herb, thinking about, you need to look at your plan, right? Like I don't know if people have if they use MapsQuest anymore. I don't use MapsQuest. We use, Google Maps or Apple Maps in the car. But when you're looking at an actual map, like those old things you used to get in the gas stations, you pull out and you look at it. So you would have a road, you're looking at this road and you're like, okay, I'm going to go from, so my dad and I used to go to a lot of, I grew up in Kentucky and we go to Kentucky football games, not basketball games. We go to Kentucky football games. Basketball's too expensive to get in. Football, we were really bad in the 90s, so it's pretty easy to get into those games. And so, when you think about a map, we lived in a town called Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And you looked at a map to get from Elizabethtown to Lexington, where the Cats played. Well, if a road was blocked, like if you couldn't get in, then you had to go another road. But you knew you were going to get there and how to make adjustments. That's the same thing with a financial plan. You need to look at how to make an adjustment. And so instead of saying, maybe you do, Herb, maybe you got to go back to work because you want to supplement the retirement income, or maybe the way you were invested needs to be adjusted. And so you want to go back to work until you can make those, whatever. Again, if you want to work in retirement, studies show that people who work in retirement, stay active, live a lot longer. So I think that's a wonderful thing to do. My wife's grandmother, she's 80, she'll be 81 in November. She just retired 2 years ago. She kept working and I would say she still works today. I mean, she still goes to church and cleans the benches and all that stuff. So you want to stay active as much as possible. Herb, thank you so much for a great question. Mike S., how much do you charge for a financial checkup and advice? Great question. So from a financial checkup standpoint, so we build plans for clients. I have two types of clients. I have a financial plan that we build. We call the Financial EKG, which we give to the client. They implement it themselves. So it's kind of a one-time thing where we build it, they implement it. Obviously, I tell people you can call me anytime you want, any questions, I don't care, I'll answer them. We charge anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 for those plans. And that's actually low when you look at financial planning rates. We also have a second common client where we actually do asset management for them. I call them a full service client, where we manage their 401ks, their IRAs, things like that. And we charge a percentage for that anywhere between 0.5% and 0.75 on an annual basis. So that's how we charge. Thanks for the question. And I'm not afraid to talk about it because, listen, when you're in the financial business, people always say, oh, you just want them commissions. You just want these. And I'm like, well, I don't get commissions. We're a fee-based firm. But I still got family to feed. So, I mean, I don't go to the gas station. They don't give me gas for free. And your job, they don't give whatever you do for free either. So we do charge for that and we make sure everybody's got it. So Other questions, concerns, how to survive a recession in your retirement investing accounts. If you're new, just come back to the beginning and start all over. Herb, thanks for the Drew, thanks for the information from Herb. I'll be in Tampa next week for a Rays game. I love baseball. 2 games. We beat the Red Sox 2 games in a row right now, so looking good. Rays are American League East is tough division right now. All right, guys, 35 minutes. If no other questions, I'm going to sign off of here. It's about 20 minutes till lunchtime on the East Coast. I'll hang around for like 30 more seconds to see if there's any other questions. Get a drink of water because it is hot. I don't know if it's hot where you live, but it is hot here in Florida. You can either live near water, be on the water, or in the air conditioning. Because you think inflation's hot? Inflation came out today at 9%. You think inflation's hot? Step outside. That's why I have this really good complexion right now. Come back to a live stream in like January, and I'll be about as white as this shirt. Okay, perfect. Well, hey, thank you so much for watching. You guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.